Mm-hmm.
You can do the things that men and women do when they really care about each other and want to express their feelings in a concrete fashion. So,
yeah.
Why aren't you? But you do seem a lot less tense tonight. You seem like you've let go of a lot of unnecessary tension.
A good woman has that effect on a man.
Good, good. I'm glad you're not like feeling fenced in by the Torah, but you're giving full vent to your feelings.
Well, things lead to other things.
Yeah, one thing leads to another. Yeah. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
No.
Say no more. Say no more. Yeah, have you shown her your etchings?
Moving towards, something in the future.
Oh yeah,
building
the paintings.
A home.
Show
a
the
home.
paintings.
The paintings.
Yeah, like taking some photographs.
All right, let's
posting them on Facebook.
Let's move towards the Parsha before it's already 8 o'clock.
Okay, I'd rather talk about Esther.
Oh, you'd rather talk about Esther than the Parsha? I think we lost people because there was no Torah in tonight's talk.
Okay.
So
So take this Torah portion Vayera, Genesis chapter 18 to chapter 22.
Okay.
So this is the Parsha that follows Lech Lecha. So
and let's just give a general outline. What is this week's Parsha generally talking about? Who are the main characters in this?
Abraham and Lot, and Abraham's wife Sarah.
Correct.
And Sodom and Gomorrah.
And Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And Lot and his daughters.
Yeah, Lot and his daughters.
And what do they do? She said, "Give it to me, Daddy. Give it to me, Daddy."
Yes, Daddy. Yes, Daddy.
And he said, "No, I'm not allowed to do that." And he started spanking them. And he's.
Then they got him drunk. And
then they got him drunk. And
like you'd think of the first night that he woke up and realized what would happen. He wouldn't get drunk the second night, but.
And so what was the story on that? So the story.
So do you think that was really wrong? Because if they believed that there was no one left on Earth,
let's explain the whole story.
I'm not sure that what they did was wrong.
Okay, so let's explain the whole story. The story was. This is very interesting. There was like an atom bomb that took place behind them, and it wiped out all civilization behind them. Sodom and Gomorrah were blown to bits, right? And the only people remaining were Lot and his daughters.
Right.
And they thought, how are we going to repopulate the world? Because we're the only people left. So now we're back to the times of Noah, because the entire world was destroyed and there's no civilization. So there's no husbands for us. There's no males. So we are the women. We have to repopulate. We'll get Dad to do it with us.
Yeah.
So they're going to repopulate with Dad. Now, last week we talked about the Noahide laws. 2 weeks ago we talked about the Noahide laws. And one of the laws that all mankind had since the time of Adam was that you're not allowed to have incest.
Right.
And incest is defined different ways, but one of them for sure is father-daughter.
Right.
So under no circumstances can you violate that act. That a Noahide law can never be violated. There's no heter for it. You can't get an exemption. You can't get something that will permit you to violate one of the Noahide laws. Nothing. There's nothing in the world. And they were responsible to know that. And as one of Avraham Avinu's his cousin, and his cousin was Lot, and his daughters, were cousins once removed or whatever, they should have known that from Avraham, that under no circumstances could they ever violate transgress a Noahide prohibition. So that there's no reason in the world that they can ever do incest. So even if they're going to think to themselves that the world is destroyed, if we don't do this, it's not for you to take upon yourself. God said under no circumstances. So in a way, he was testing them. Yeah. God was testing the daughters. What are you going to do? And they should have said, we're going to wait for God to sort this out. Because maybe another guy will show up. He'll walk out of the cloud. He'll be like Terminator 2, And I'm back. I'm the Gropinator. I'm the precursor to Herman Cain. Right? So he would come, and then the Austrian would bang all of Lot's daughters. So they didn't give him that chance, and for that reason they were all punished. The daughters were punished because they violated the Noahide act. Was Lot punished?
Well, I imagine he felt pretty icky. Like waking up and going, oh, I just had sex with my daughters.
Yeah, that's got to be.
It's kind of a downer. I mean, call me a Republican, but...
So that's the story on that. Okay, so pick it up.
Okay, so Rabbi Beryl Wine writes...
I just want to see what's going on.
Okay.
A hot 19-year-old woman is better than 19 years of psychotherapy. I'm not going to argue against that.
Do you feel like you've got more benefit from relating to Esther than from your years of psychology?
Psychology is a bunch of garbage. So the whole. I have a psych degree. I can say that, and I've been on the couch for more years than you can count, and I've been in more offices than you can count, and the whole thing is a crock of shit. So, one date with a woman who I would never want to see again is more productive than all the psychology in the world. So, yeah.
So why is the story of Lot part of the Torah given the problematic nature of the material?
I don't understand the question.
Well, it's so icky, the material, like in...
There's a lot of things that could be considered icky in Torah.
Why is that in...
Torah is not PC. Torah is not G-rated. Torah doesn't go, ooh, we don't want to discuss that, right? We're going to see... We talked about this last year. We're going to get into it again. The story with Yehuda and Tamar. There's like a lot of stuff that goes down... at face value sounds a little bit risque. Torah doesn't play games. Torah gets involved in these areas,
Now, is this a good way to nail chicks, to tell them you're the last man on earth?
I think the line has been used. Good luck with that one. It's a hit or miss, But after the atom bombs go off, after the next nuclear war, I'm sure some guy is going to be right there to try it.
Well, speaking of atom bombs, the Lakewood Rav says most of our great scientists got laid all the time, such as Einstein and Feynman.
I have no comment. I wouldn't know. Is it? You think that's true?
But I think it left them feeling really empty inside.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the first 30 years of promiscuous sex are really enjoyable, and after that, after a few decades of that, it just leaves you feeling so empty inside.
Yeah.
Even if you're with professionals.
Okay, so what does Rabbi Beryl Wine, the Zionist, say?
So Rabbi Beryl Wine says, Abraham is rewarded for his willingness to sacrifice his son Isaac, and he's rewarded for not actually going through with the sacrifice. The common denominator in Abraham's seemingly contradictory behavior is his constant willingness to accept God's will, to behave accordingly. This attitude has become the basis for all halakhic, meaning Jewish law decisions and Jewish behavior over the ages, continued attempt to understand and follow through upon God's will. So, like the Jewish position on many different moral questions is often a complex one, because in Judaism you're constantly balancing all these different competing interests. So there's one overarching interest, and that's to do God's will. So sometimes that calls you to sacrifice, and sometimes that calls you not to sacrifice. Sometimes that causes you to kill, and sometimes it causes you not to kill. Sometimes it causes you to speak out loudly and publicly and to condemn in the strongest language. And other times it calls upon you to just keep quiet. So God's will, that's the overarching task for a Jew. Sarah, Abraham's wife, was initially bemused by the words of the angel that she would conceive and have a child. She evidently thought it was just a throwaway promise of some wandering Bedouin Arab, and she reacted accordingly. At the outset, she did not hear the voice of God in the words of the angel that addressed her. Therefore, she did not take those words seriously. God reprimands her for this attitude, and he asks, why did Sarah not take these words seriously? Abraham, who heard the tidings from God directly, realized that the message was true and was serious. Sarah had to believe what she thought was a human wish, and therefore discounted it. But God demanded from her, as he does from each of us, that we pay proper attention to what other humans say to us. Perhaps in their statements, the words, in statements of words, we can realize that God himself, so to speak, is talking to us.
Yeah, can I comment on that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes and no. I'm going to agree that God speaks to us in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
God speaks to us sometimes with the words of other people,
mm-hmm.
whether they realize it or not. They're telling us what God wants us to hear and learn.